are now tuned in to this week's episode on TOGCast. It is our mission to bring you guest speakers sharing their latest and greatest tips, skills, stories and know-hows within their market. Let's get going.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's TOGCast. Today we're going to be talking about networking and we're joined by Donna Schultz, who's the Managing Director of the Hertfordshire Chamber of Commerce, and our very own David Ardern, who is the Business Networking Manager. Before we go in, do you want to just introduce yourselves, Donna and David?
Yes, hi, I'm Donna Schultz, the Managing Director of the Hertfordshire Chamber of Commerce. I was appointed January this year as Managing Director, but have been with the Chamber for 5 years. So thank you for having me, the One Group.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hi, I'm David Ardern. I'm the Business Networking Manager for the One Group. I've been with the company now for 12 years and predominantly in recruitment for the last 25.
Wow. So between you guys, you've got a lot of networking experience and I'm dying to hear all about it. So if you're listening today, you're probably, wondering what networking is all about, what benefits you, why you should do it. Maybe you love it, or love the idea of it, but you've never really got into it. Maybe you do it and you don't really know whether you should be doing it differently. So we're here today to basically discuss the benefits of networking and the do's and don'ts of networking. And then, maybe we'd love to hear about Donna and David and all your experiences, because I'm sure there is a lot. So let's get cracking. Everyone must have their first experience of networking the very first time. I'm sure people might remember theirs. I personally don't actually remember mine, and I think it was probably when I was at university or something, because they do get you to do lots of networking things, and I didn't realize at the time that I was networking. So what about you, Donna? What was your first experience?
Yeah, I think you're right there, Leanne. We assume networking is when we start work, but actually we have been networking since we were children, probably when we started school, and didn't realize when you start school, when you start college and university, that when you meet a new group of people or you're in a room with a new group of people, there are certain skills that you need to learn that you must use. And we don't all have them naturally. Even though you may be a very natural person approaching someone, there's still skills that you need to learn. So for me, I think the one that stands out was when I went to college. And I'd left school, I'd been at secondary school for a number of years, and I decided to do A-levels at college because the school didn't provide the ones I wanted to do. And I remember going in on that first day and starting again where there were clusters of people and I didn't know anybody, and I had to go and introduce myself. And that's quite hard at the age that I was, because I was a teenager. So it's not that you're a full-grown adult and you don't need to be shy, which some people are. It took a while. But it's just breaking that ice. And over the years, and I'm sure we'll come back to this, I've learned to network, obviously much more professionally, but use the skills that I've adapted along the way.
Yeah. What about you, David? What was your first experience?
My first recollection really of being at a networking event, again, as Donna said, probably that I wasn't that conscious that it was, but having left school, I went into financial services and into the banking arena. And my first week, I was sent on a conference which covered a lot of the banks and the financial institutions. So there was hundreds of people there. And although reasonably confident, it was quite daunting when you've got so many people in sort of one big building, and it was down in London as well. So, it was sort of quite a busy day. But I found it sort of, because a lot of people were in a similar circumstance to me and from sort of similar backgrounds and industries, there was a sort of combined theme for being there, really. And I think that probably gives you the, as Donna was mentioning, it gives you that sort of inner confidence that you're in a environment where you can't stand there and not say anything. You've got to mix with people, and so your natural instinct is to get talking to people, finding out a lot more about what people do and where they're from and who they work for. So I think that started me on the road to sort of my networking experience. And the more people you sort of chat to, the easier it becomes, really. And I found over the years that it becomes a natural instinct as opposed to a daunting environment where you've suddenly got loads of people and you have to sort of, start communicating with them. So that's my first recollection.
And everyone's all there for the same thing, aren't they? They're all there. They might not know many people. So, you know that everyone's in the same boat. And if you're standing there not talking to someone might come over and start talking to you. Or hopefully today we'll give a few tips and advice to people that might be in that situation and they want to go and talk to someone, but they might not know exactly what to say. So this is a great opportunity for us to give some tips to those people. I think a lot of people's perception of networking is maybe that there are very different types out there. And I know, being in the events industry, that there are so many different types of events. Like you can have presenter events, you can have breakfast events, lunch, evening events. There's loads of different types out there, and all the different times of days where you can have an event as well. So Donna, you must organise a variety of these events, like I've just said. They're great networking opportunities, aren't they?
They are, yes. We do organise a variety of networking events because different type of networking events are more attractive to different people depending on what they want. So we do host breakfast events because some people prefer to network first thing in the day. It's easier for them to break midday. That's where the lunches come in, and the lunches are there for a variety of different businesses, and we have a guest speaker, and it's a bit more formal than a breakfast with a sit-down meal, and you have that opportunity to network with a number of people, perhaps over 100, whereas the breakfasts are much more on the smaller scale. Now that summer is approaching, we have twilight networking events coming up because we know some people at the end of the day, especially when the sun is shining and it's light till late in the evening, they may want to come and network at the end of the day. So again, we host those. So there is a real variety. We work with hundreds of businesses and they don't all want a breakfast. They don't all want a lunch. And we do take that feedback and try and put on events for them. We've even hosted a few events at our offices recently to give them the opportunity to meet the team. And again, we'll have up to 40 to 50 people here at the chamber offices. So it's really ensuring that the networking experience is as proactive as it can be, and that people walk away having met someone different each time. And also that they feel confident at the end, and that perhaps they've linked in with somebody that they'll see again. And it's really creating that hub and that safe space for them to network. What we do, the chamber team, is if we know somebody's coming for the first time, what we try and do is make sure they're looked after, perhaps by an existing member. We'll do some introductions, or perhaps one of the member team will sit with them at the lunch just so they can feel a bit more relaxed if they're nervous, because we know that not everyone is an extrovert. There are lots of introverts and lots of people just find it awkward to make small talk. And what we have to think is networking isn't just about small talk. It is about making sure you ask the right questions and listen to the answer. It's key, and trying to engage with what they're saying, to think of a topic where you can come in. There's no point talking to them about something that's not relevant. So marketing, don't talk to them about construction unless they're marketing in construction. Try and think about something that relates to them. And if all else fails, make it personal. Tell them, oh, I love your skirt, or gosh, how did you find getting here today? The weather was awful. The
weather.
Break it in that lovely weather, or something just to break the ice. And you'll find, as you speak to different people, there'll be a way in. There's always a way in. But I think, Leanne, what you said was key, that when you're going to a networking event, everyone is there to network. And we have to remember that.
Yeah. Also, I find that, obviously you can't go in with this, but if you talk about pets, everyone's always got a pet, or they've got a story about a pet. You can't go in and be like, so tell me about your dog. You kind of have to start the conversation first, don't you? And then you can start talking about. So what about you, David? You've obviously, Donna's organising these events, and you're one that actually goes to all these different types of networking events. Yeah. From your experience, what do you find is probably the best one to start at, maybe if you've not networked before, or the best one that you find for networking in general?
I think just following on from what Donna said, some people find different times of the day a better time to socialise and network, really. So I think that's why, you've got to cater for everybody's needs. So, I mean, I found, the chamber events are fantastic, whether they're a breakfast one or whether an evening event. But I think it's one of those things really where I'd probably encourage people to maybe start at a breakfast event, because that's probably a bit more convenient. And as Donna mentioned, there's probably less people there. But you're going for a reason, you're going there with the intention of meeting other people, and they might be in different roles, different organisations, and that's the whole point of it, because you get to meet people that you probably wouldn't otherwise engage in your daily lives. And you've got to go to a few, because I think your expectation that the first one you go to, you're going to meet lots of interesting people and you're going to develop business from that, is not always the case. And so I think you have to, embrace, I'm sure, Donna will confirm this, but, running a chamber, but you need to put in the effort to go to the events. And you might go to one and think, well, there wasn't really anybody that necessarily I met that I'm going to develop a long-term communication with. But then you go to the next event and actually you meet quite a few people. So it's a bit of trial and error, really. And I think the more you go to, the more confident you become, because even the most experienced people in business sometimes aren't confident in a general public environment. And I think you need to cater for that. And as Donna mentioned, sometimes you might go to events and there'll be people there that are mixing very naturally, and some that might be quite shy, and be sort of standing in the corner looking for somebody to speak to. And I think often people, will notice that straight away and go over and try and make people feel comfortable. But it's something you've got to embrace, and you've got to go with the intention of making the effort, because if you don't, then, it becomes more difficult.
I think you only get out what you put in. And you're right, David, because I think people think, I'm going to go to one networking event, meet someone, there's my business, that's going to pay for my investment, and it takes time to build. It's very similar to a gym, because you don't go to the gym once and expect to come out fully toned with muscle. Well, sorry to disappoint you, Anne. It doesn't happen. So you do have to build it up and make it part of your day-to-day. So if you are going to network, make the time to network, and don't think that going twice a year will help you. It's a regular occurrence. And if you can't go because you're busy, send someone else. As long as they have someone representing the business, that's key. So the more people will meet you and say, oh, yeah, David, Leanne, Becky, everyone from the one group. If you hear the one group a lot, that's great. If you don't go to things so often, then people won't really recognise or remember you often. So it's being patient.
I think that's great advice. We do this bi-monthly event, and it's the same people generally. The bulk of the people that go are the same people every single time, and you just get to know them, and that relationship builds, and then you don't get nervous about going to the event, because you know that there's going to be at least 5 people there that are always there that and you speak to, and then you get more confidence to then talk to the other people that might only be there for the first time, and then you can just slowly build that network, but also building those relationships with the people that are there regularly. So I think that's really good advice.
And that's proven in the fact, we give an example of we joined the Herts Chamber of Commerce, and we weren't particularly well known in the area, but we made the effort, and we were very, we were greeted openly by the chamber. And now we're in a position where we connect with a lot of businesses and a lot of people. And that's because a number of us have embraced the opportunity, and we've been to different events with the chamber. We went to
the Hertfordshire summer party last year. That was really good.
Incredible.
Absolutely.
That was an example of an event that, a massive amount of effort goes into it, but you've got several hundred people there, and in a fantastic environment, which can only encourage people to, make the effort and gain an experience. And an event like the summer party is a fantastic way of meeting people that you wouldn't meet at necessarily other events, and that's just an example.
What do you guys think about online events? Have you, maybe during COVID you had them, do you still have them? David, have you ever attended? What are your thoughts there, guys?
Okay, so I joined the Chamber in 2019, and within 6 months, I was in lockdown.
Wow.
And every event we did was online. So we very quickly learned how to use Teams and Zoom because we hadn't used it so much previously. And all of our communication, my communication, was online. And I was a business development manager at the time, and I built my network through online networking. So going on one-to-ones, going on to other networking platforms where you had a virtual bus and you could hop from one to the other. I mean, it was fantastic.
Wow.
We hosted our Meet the Buyer event with Sky Studios, and that was online because they joined purely to employ local people in Hertfordshire. And we must have had over 90 people join that online network, that presentation. So there is a power there. We still host virtual. We thought we wouldn't, but actually there's an appetite for virtual, and we do it bi-monthly. And what's great is we go into a group like we are now, and the computer shuffles us 4 times within that hour. And it gives people the opportunity. They're forced. Now, in some ways, you would say it's better than face-to-face because the computer will force you to speak with people you wouldn't necessarily talk to at an event. So there are pros to the virtual networking. And then if you're in a room, a group that you have been with before, you just leave and the computer will reshuffle you into another group. But you each get time to introduce your business. So it's a faster way of networking. You may in a room talk to 2 or 3 people, but within that hour, you've probably spoken to about 20.
Right.
So there's definitely a power to the virtual networking. Obviously, face-to-face is, for me, the way to go. But I think having a mixture of those events is key. And also businesses that perhaps are with us, but they can't physically get to an event, they have meetings during the day. They can just hop on from whenever they are. If they're working from home, which we know businesses are still doing, if they're in the office, it gives them that flexibility to come and network and raise their profile at the same time.
I agree with that. I agree with that as well, Donna, because having attended when we first joined your chamber, we had a couple of online events, and I think again it's quite good for people that probably might be a little bit nervous and might want to attend an event. And I think it's probably a nice launch pad sometimes when you can go onto an online event, and it builds that confidence, and that may well lead to going to a face-to-face one, really. So I think they are right for some people and can be a lot easier to attend. But I think they work incredibly well. And as Donna says, you're suddenly in an environment where you've got an opportunity to introduce yourself, and it can sometimes give you that confidence that probably you might not have if you attend a physical event.
Yes, absolutely.
So we've talked a little bit about networking for business, but what do you think the benefits are for individuals for networking? Like business aside, it doesn't matter what their job is, what their job title is, what they're doing. What do you think?
So from a business perspective, the great opportunity for networking is to actually tell people what you do. There's always a misperception about a business, or you think you know what they do, but you don't. There could be an array of different, like an umbrella of different divisions there, and they actually offer services that you didn't realise. So I think it's just to not only raise your profile, talk about the business, explain that you've been doing things in your business that perhaps have worked very well since lockdown. We're in a cost of living crisis as well. There are going to be that opportunity to speak with business, say, how did you cope with that? What situation did you have recently? So I think from that side, there's a whole different angle that you can come in for a business. It's not just the one-to-one, but it's on a wider scope there. Also, it's offering that one-to-one support with the business as well. But I do find, and I've travelled the county a lot in the last 5 years, that businesses, I will go in and they never cease to amaze me about all the other things that they offer. So by networking, it gives you that opportunity to explain that, but also to tell people what you're doing, who you are, whereabouts in the county that you could support, because we want this county to work together. And sometimes people in the past have gone to Cambridge or Peterborough for things because they didn't know there was a business in Hertfordshire doing what they do, or they hadn't heard of them. So for us, we really are the hub of giving people a voice to say, this is who you are, this is where you are in the county, and that you're willing to support other businesses. So I think networking is key to any business, really, I do. Especially smaller startups that need to create their client base and perhaps they're not so well known. And to get to a place where your brand isn't, everyone knows who you are, but they might not know all the services, especially the banks, construction companies. They do so much more than what you think they do.
Yeah, but they do.
What it does as well, Donna, as you were saying, is that it gives a platform for businesses as well, because it integrates, small businesses, SMEs, and large corporates, and it gives an environment where you feel comfortable that you can talk to people that probably in the business community you would never get to meet unless an opportunity like this comes up. And so I think it sort of gives a cross-fertilization of businesses, as Donna just said, about finding out about the businesses and what they do. And it might be that a construction business has the same challenges as a financial services businesses, but you share ideas, you share problem solving, and it's a great way to integrate the business community that otherwise just wouldn't happen. So networking is key to introducing businesses across whole different spectrums.
Absolutely.
David, what do you think, businesses aside, what do you think the benefits are for networking from an individual perspective?
I think from an individual perspective as well, and I think we touched on this at the start, is that it gives somebody an inner confidence, whether it's somebody that's relatively young and not experienced in working, or somebody that might have many years of being in business, but personally has not really had an opportunity to sort of find that inner confidence. And I think networking propels you into that forum and allows you to mix with people, and it allows you to really talk about maybe what you're passionate about, because whether it's your own business or whether it's a business you've worked in for a year or 10 years, it gives you an opportunity to show what you're involved in and what your role is. So I think it helps promote an inner confidence on people that puts you in an environment that has probably not been natural for you, but it builds confidence. The more of these kind of events you go to, the more opportunity you have to talk to different people in different environments and from different businesses. So I think it helps personal growth as well.
Yeah, and I think it might be able to help people with their career aspirations as well. If they go to these networking events and they meet these different company owners or different HR people from different companies, and then they might hear about a job opening or a career opportunity or even a sidestep or even a different industry. So it could help them in that way. And I'm imagining there's lots of people listening now that might actually really want to go and try networking, but they're not quite sure, what to talk about. So we've touched on it before. Donna, you said, nice skirt, the weather, the traveling. What else do you guys think are good top tips for people to talk about when they're at their very first networking event, or maybe they go all the time and they're fed up of talking about the weather?
So I would, for my top 3 do's, it would be to follow up. I think follow up is key when you've met someone. Always follow up with them, especially if you've LinkedIn or you have their number, their email address. Do follow up, because that shows that you're really interested in what they were speaking about, and it will just progress that networking, because we network here to meet businesses, to work with them. So do follow up. Always listen and learn, and listening is key. Absolutely listen to what they're saying to you and learn from that as well. And be patient. Exactly what we spoke about before, because networking does not happen overnight for what you want it to do. It does take time. It takes time to build a rapport, and be authentic. Be yourself. Don't try and be somebody you're not, because it doesn't work. So everyone knows me. I do have a sense of humour. I use it a lot when I share. I'm not always funny. I know that, but that's just me. And whether I'm the business development manager of the Herts Chamber or the MD, I would always be that person, and I don't want to change, because that's who I am. So I think authenticity is key. Don't just speak to one person at a networking event. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't over promote yourself. Remember, there's others in the room.
Yeah.
I mean that in the most polite way, but there have been occasions where someone will talk so much they haven't given anyone else an opportunity.
So how do you remove yourself from talking? So say you're in a group of people and they're talking and you can't interrupt and you want to go and network somewhere else and meet other people. How can you politely sort of move away from that group?
Okay, so a couple of times. One is I've said, oh, I'm really sorry, but I just want to go network with some other people. There's somebody I know. I've used that before. Now I'm giving it away, aren't I? So here we go. I have to be careful what I say. Another one could be, oh, I'm just going to go grab a coffee because the coffee could be out. I'm just going to go and top up my coffee. Yeah. It could be that you have seen someone you know. Really sorry, but I've just seen someone I know or one of my clients. I'd just like to go and have a word with them. That's as polite as you can be. When it's on the virtual networking and I've chaired a cohort like this, I will say, thank you so much. I'm just going to go on to the next person because we only have 12 minutes to go around the room. Yeah. So you have to be assertive, but not aggressive and not rude. So you have to find balance there.
David, do you have any do's and don'ts?
I think I'll probably just cover that. Don't oversell yourself.
Yes.
Don't over talk. Don't oversell your company, your product, because that can wear a bit thin to people. So I'd avoid doing that. Just seek the opportunity to get to know people and other businesses and people that are there. Because if you don't get the chance to speak to them necessarily on one occasion, chances are you might meet them at another networking event.
Yeah, that's true.
Just on that, just to add very quickly, I would say be positive at a networking event. Come across positive, and it changes the game. If you come across very negative, oh, it's taken me ages to get here. It's not a great selling tool for yourself or your business. So think about how you come across and how you would like to be perceived. So if somebody was saying that to you, what would be your thoughts on that? Because for me, if somebody's coming in, they're positive, and they may have had a really difficult morning, a major joke, but they're smiling, they're engaging. They're the ones I want to network with, not the ones that necessarily are negative. So just bear that in mind, I think.
Well, we've talked about so much today, and I absolutely love the do's and the don'ts of networking. There is another question that we could touch upon, which is people might be worried about what do they wear to a networking event. I personally would probably go as I would if I was going to work. But what's your advice?
Yes, so I would always go in your work attire. Now that's different. When I say work attire, some people will be very suited and booted. Others may be smart jeans, a blouse, a jacket, or not a blouse for men, a shirt. It's very different. I would tend to go on the smart side. I would wear something smart and comfortable and read your audience. So I've always read my audience with clients I've worked for. So if I was going to a hotel, I would dress a lot more formal than I would when I was working with my pub clients historically. So I think if you wear something that you're comfortable in and it's smart, you'll be fine. Again, it's about being you and not changing the person you are. Obviously, turning up in perhaps scruffy clothes isn't great. And it might be that your job is that you wear scruffy clothes, and that's great, but you want to just be a bit smarter when you're networking. But if it's a very individual thing, and I don't think in this day and age we can say there's too much right and wrong. We have to be very careful, but at the same time, I think just be mindful of how you'd be perceived.
Okay. So to end every episode then, we have the one word. Donna, please, what is yours?
My one word is confidence.
Nice. David?
My one word is communication.
Brilliant. Becca?
Welcoming.
Nice. And my word is going to be impressions, because first impressions count and you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So thank you, Donna. Thank you, David, for joining us today for our networking podcast. It's been really great to speak to you and catch up with you, Donna. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And please reach out to anyone on LinkedIn if you have any questions about networking, Donna or David. Donna has lots of events going on in the Hertfordshire area that would be perfect for first-time networkers or those that are a dab hand, or maybe they go to different chamber network events and they want to try out the Hertfordshire Chamber too. And also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, The One Group. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
That's a wrap for this week's episode. If you want to be our next guest speaker on TOGCast, then get in touch with The One Group. And don't forget to subscribe. We would hate for you to miss the next one.